Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show with SportsBookReview.com. I am your host, Lee Martin, joined today by the one, the only MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. Today we're going to have a great show because we're going to break down the entire main card for UFC 262. We got Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, and this is going to be such a great card. Even the prelims look great. I'm so excited for this weekend. I feel like I've been waiting for this for so long.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
I didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm also excited, too. Like, we've had a few weird letdowns over the past couple of weeks. We've seen some wonky cards, and this card got a little bit of a curveball thrown at it as Matt Schnell's on the card now. But I'm excited. We get two big 155 fights. We're going to have a new champion. We're going to figure out who that champion probably is over the course of the broadcast. I know people like Big Wave Dave are just happy to see you. I'm here. I consider myself to be like the Tony Kukoc of SBR's MMA team. I'm the guy they kind of bring off the bench. I score enough points. I'm loud enough. And I may or may not have punched some people out in some different clubs. So it's good to be back. It's good to be here. And it's good to be behind all of my weird art. So I'm excited to talk about some fights.
No, it's always wonderful to have you on, Matt. And yes, I do love your art behind you. But before we get into our main card breakdown for UFC 262, like always, I want to start the show with a recap of UFC Vegas 26. And that was with Rodriguez versus Waterson. And yes, there were only 9 fights on that card. But let me tell you, I thought it was a great event, even though Cowboy lost again. And yes, he has one more fight left. And Dana White confirmed his career is on the line. So let's see if he can go out with a bang. But Matt, I want to hear how your UFC Vegas 26 went.
Well, I called the Cowboy fight, and I know our buddy Dave Mannion not happy with the result, but yeah, that's what happened. You know, pretty good card for me. Got some, if not most, of my predictions on the money. But new week, new card, a whole bunch of weird options in the air. Like our first fight of the night is one of those fights where I'm going to probably coin flip to make a decision. But a good week. How about you? How was your week?
Honestly, I was very disappointed that Ribas and Hill got canceled because that was the one fight I was so looking forward to. So when I saw that Ribas had something with COVID protocols, I was like, of course this would happen for this week. But I lost with Jeff Neal, which I got really PO'd about that. But the main event was very good. I had Marina Rodriguez by points, and I actually cashed out really good with that, and that made up for the Jeff Neal loss. So I had a decent weekend, honestly, but it probably would have been better if I had the Ribas versus Hill. But I'm glad you had a good weekend, and yes, you did call that Cowboy fight. But let's get into our main card breakdown. You know, this is a great card, and I'm very excited for it. And then before we do get into our breakdowns, just real quick, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a show with me and my MMA team. Now, let's get to it. For the first fight on the card, we have featherweight Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. Via Bet Online, Shane Burgos is -138 and Edson Barboza is +118. Now, before we got on the show, I told Matt, I'm so drawn with this fight. You know, I'm leaning Shane Burgos, but you know, Barboza's track record, his past few fights were against the toughest of the tough in the division. We got Gaethje, Paul Felder, Dan Ige, Kevin Lee, Khabib. Like, that's why I'm so drawn on this. Matt, I would love to hear your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
Yeah, let's take a look talk about some of the people that Barboza beat in his last winning streak back in 2017. Beneil Dariush, Gilbert Melendez, Anthony Pettis. Olive, I know she agrees with me, but she, you know, Edson Barboza, he got that win over a common opponent against he and Burgos in Makwan Amirkhani. Burgos knocked him out in Madison Square Garden, though. So when you take a look at common opponents, which is a thing you should do in every sport, is look at who they've gone up against, if they match up, how do they match up. And when you see Burgos, the younger fighter, dusting Amirkhani, and Barboza only going the distance, that gives you a little bit of a question mark. I know, Olive, it's her gotcha day today, so she's being extra fussy. Yeah, her toy fell on the floor here in my studio, so I'm gonna keep talking. But I'm going to grab this because we're live on the air and my dog supersedes me talking nonsense. But Burgos is coming off a decision loss last June. So he's had 11 months to figure out what he's doing wrong, try to acclimate to the new world around him. And also, we're inside the baby cage, which is my favorite thing in the world outside of freak fights and big boy fights. And, you know, take a look at Burgos. He's had 8 total UFC fights. He's gone to a decision in half of them. So 4 of his fights have gone to distance inside the octagon. That loss to Josh Emmett ended a 3-fight winning streak that featured 2 stoppages and a split decision over Cub Swanson, which this is the part that makes it so hard. It's like, we talk about Burgos knocking out Amir Khani, but he went the distance against Cub Swanson while Barboza went up against straight-up killers. Straight up. He went up there against freaking Khabib. So it makes it a little hard to kind of pinpoint who's the guy. I would stay away from this fight unless you're utilizing a parlay, unless you know something that we don't know. But if I'm picking this fight straight up, I'm probably going to go with Burgos. I think Burgos, the younger fighter, has something to prove here. He wants to take out a guy like Barboza, who's considered a legend in the featherweight division, a guy who's gone up against some of the best, you know, some of the best at 155. Now he's at 145. And the thing that scares me about this fight is Barboza's chinny. He's been knocked out 3 times. And in that smaller cage, going up against a guy who's had 5 knockout wins, 5 submission wins. He's got multiple ways to beat you. The deeper this fight goes, it goes into a toss-up. But in those first 2 rounds, it's scary, and I have to go with Burgos.
No, I'm totally with you on Burgos. And, you know, I've always really, Barboza doesn't really have the best gas tank. So, yeah, the later in the rounds, the more lean Burgos. But the one thing that does worry me about Burgos, he loves to counter aggressively. And that often leaves him open. So, with Burgos with 12 TKO wins on his record, that kind of makes me a little bit worried. But at the end, Burgos has only lost once by TKO. So he's not going to knock out Burgos. So yes, for me as well, I will lean Burgos. And if you guys want to get in on this fight via BetOnline, Shea Burgos is -138 and Edson Barboza is +118. So that's for the first fight. For the next fight, let's move on to the women's flyweight. We have Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviane Araujo via BetOnline. Chookagian, where's your name, my dear? Chookagian is -140 and Viviane Araujo is +120. And I will tell you right now, I love these dog odds on Viviane Araujo. I already wrote my script for my top UFC picks, and Araujo is in this. And let me tell you, yes, Chookagian fought Valentina Shevchenko. She lost, but she did win against Antonina. I can't say their names. Antonina Shevchenko.
There we go.
If you haven't realized, with long names that are like jumbled up, I'm not good with tongue twisters. So there we go. But she has a loss against Valentina, a win against Antonina, a loss against Jessica Andrade, and then a win. She redeemed herself against Calvillo. But the thing is, she does not hold the knockout power. And her strikes, on average, she has 4.22 significant strikes per minute, but she absorbs 4.23. That worries me. Because Araujo, she's an aggressive striker, and she's incredibly well-rounded. So she can last in the canvas, she can strike. For me, this is not going to be inside the distance. This will be a decision for sure, and it'll be very close, just because I know Chookagian is the decision queen. So, Matt, I want to hear what you have to say, because right now I have Araujo by decision, and I want to see if we're on the same page. So what's your breakdown and pick for this next fight?
See, that's the thing, is like, you take a look at when you're on the scorecards, Chookagian is 12-2. That's a ridiculous stat. She has as many decision wins as Araujo has fights. That's ridiculous, even though, you know, the distance between both of them in terms of fights is like 7 or 8. You know, there's like 19 total fights for Chookagian, 12 for Araujo. So it's a 7-fight differential, but those 7 fights, as you said, Lee, Antonina Shevchenko, Cynthia Calvillo, Jennifer Maia, Joanne Calderwood are all people that have fell to Chookagian. In her last 6 fights, she's got 4 wins. Those losses are to Jessica Andrade and Valentina Shevchenko. As you said, Lee, those are 2 of the best fighters in the UFC. No gender, no weight class. Those are 2 of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the sport. So Chookagian has some chops. She's a solid fighter, a definitively good fighter, but the problem comes down to the deeper this fight goes, you know, she's been knocked out twice, and Araujo's got 3 knockout wins, 4 submission wins. Yeah, we've not seen Chookagian tap inside the octagon, But, you know, fighting those killers, this might be a trap fight. This is a trap fight for Araujo, and I like those underdog odds. I'm not sure if it goes to a decision, I think it goes to Chookagian. I don't mean to go against you on that, but I like Araujo as a dog. If you're looking at something, I would parlay an Araujo decision win or an Araujo stoppage win with that first fight, with that Burgos fight. That to me seems like a very good deal and a very good possibility for you to walk out with a little more money than you had before the start of the night. And for me, if you're putting units on something like that and you're looking to take a bet, this is a risky card to put any money on because there's a lot of close and contentious fights. We talked about it last week. There's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of great matchmaking here. I like riding the hot hand. So Araujo's the one who's coming in with more wins in her last number of fights. She's 7-1 in her last 8 and on a 2-fight winning streak. And it's not against jabronis. It's Roxanne Modafferi and Montana De La Rosa, 2 definitively talented fighters. And that's a pretty big sign to me. So that's where I stand. The first 2, the deeper this fight goes, the better it is for Chookagian. But I think Araujo is going to bring the fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if she stops her.
There is a chance for her to stop her, and honestly, I can see her. But the fact that Chookagian has gone to the scorecards 14 times just makes me worry a little bit that she won't be able to get the stop. That's why Araujo by decision is really nice, but also since she's a dog, just the value on her alone is very profitable. She's incredibly well-rounded. She can grapple, she can strike, she's incredibly powerful. It's just everything in my eyes leans towards Araujo. So yes, I'm taking Araujo. So if you guys want to get on this fight, again, via BetOnline, Chookagian is -140 and Araujo is +120. Let's move on to the next fight. We have bantamweight Matt Schnell versus Rogerio Bontorin. I have pizza on my mind if you couldn't tell. But via BetOnline, Matt Schnell is -160 and Bontorin is +140. Matt, I'll begin with you this time for your breakdown and pick.
This is the fight that we got last minute, when you sent the card to me on Monday, and then immediately it's like, sorry, this fight's out, this fight's in. This is a fight where we've got 2 guys coming off of losses, and it's an exciting fight, it's a compelling fight, but Matt Schnell, 15-5, the last fight was a loss against Tyson Nam back in January, and Bontorin, Rogerio coming off of a knockout loss by Kai Kara France just about a month or 2 ago, and a decision loss to Ray Borg. 2 really solid fighters, but this is another toss-up fight. And also, he got knocked out. Schnell got knocked out by Alexander Pantoja in the fight before that, and he had a 4-fight winning streak that spanned from 2017 to 2019. But Schnell on the schneid in his last 2 fights, facing a last-minute opponent. He's been knocked out 3 times. His other losses are 1 decision and 1 submission loss. So it makes it a little hard. And he's been knocked out. All of his UFC losses, except the loss to Nam, were knockout losses. So that makes him shinny. And he's going into the baby cage, going up against a fighter like Rogerio, who's coming into this fight, coming off a knockout loss, having something to prove, and also someone who's missed weight before at the regional level, at the international level. This is a guy who's missed weight before. So there's a whole bunch of freaking questions on this fight for me. Bontorin is 2-2 in the UFC. But he won his previous 4 fights before the loss to France and Borg, 3 by stoppage, 1 by decision. He's submitted 11 opponents. That's a frightening number. And if I'm Matt Schnell, I'm trying to keep this fight standing. But I like the last-minute opponent. I like Rogerio in this because he's got more ways to beat you. He's knocked out opponents before, and his chin has been tested. And every time Schnell levels up, it's losses to Nam, losses to Pantoja. Who's his big win against? Every time, even against a guy like Rob Font, and I'm not fading Rob Font at all. He's a talented fighter. But he gave him the 2-piece, the biscuit, and the free soda, and the upgrade. So really hard for me to give Schnell any love here outside of the fact that he's a tough dude. I'm going to go with the last-minute opponent.
All right, let's keep this in mind. Rogerio usually fights as a flyweight. He's considered a heavy flyweight. And now he's going to be competing as a bantamweight, so this should be a more equal match for him this weekend. So I feel like he will have a tough time in the canvas, he's mainly a grappler, and his takedown accuracy is only at 40%. 40%, his defense 51%. His striking is not the best striking, but I think Matt Schnell, he's well-rounded. He is dangerous on the ground, and he's dangerous in striking. He has a great takedown defense at 53%. That's not great, but it's decent, So if the only thing that I would worry about with Schnell would be his grappling, like Rogerio's grappling. But for me, Matt, I'm going to take Matt Schnell in this one, I feel like everything leans towards Schnell. He has a lot of movement. He likes to a lot of head movement. But the thing is, with his movement, it can often put him in danger. But the thing is, again, he's so well-rounded. Rogerio, again, his striking's not the best. So, again, that's why, I'm leaning Schnell. The more I talk, the more in my head, I'm just thinking.
Yeah,
Schnell.
You're kind of talking me into it, but there's a lot of unanswered questions with Schnell.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at it even more, and it's like, yes, Rogerio does have the 11 submission wins under his record, but, Schnell has 8. It's not that huge of a difference, So, again, I'm going to take the favorite in this one and take Matt Schnell. Right now, he's currently minus 160, and Rogerio's plus 140. The over and under 2.5, they're both at minus 115. If you guys want to check out the MMA props at BetOnline, definitely check them out. But, again, I'm going to back Schnell. Matt, are you still going to back Bontorin?
You know what?
For now, honestly, yes, fine. If you change your mind, we'll send out a tweet. There.
Yeah.
So,
if anything, watch me on Saturday night on Combat Culture. Yes. I'll give my live prediction. Subscribe to the Combat Culture YouTube channel. Watch me progressively get drunk as we call the fights. And I might change my mind. Hell, we may not even see this fight get into the cage because Bontorin may not make weight. You know what? I'm going to go with Schnell because the thing about making weight scares the hell out of me. Even though years ago, like, I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, Matt, this might be a stay-away fight for you. Let's just say that.
The way I'm talking about it, there's so many stay-away fights here for me, and then we're getting to the co-main, which is not a stay-away fight for me, and I think my prediction is going to shock the hell out of people.
I love it. But again, if you guys do want to get in on this fight via BetOnline, Matt Schnell is minus 160 and Rogerio Bontorin is plus 140. Now, before we do get into our co-main breakdown, again, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. And again, I know one question that will be asked is, where's Dave? And Dave is not too busy, but he's very busy writing content for you guys. So definitely give him love. Give him a follow on Twitter at @dmanion_. Check out all of his content at sbrpicks.com/UFC. Just give him all the love you can. He's here in our hearts, and he will be back next week. So there we go. But let's move on to the co-main breakdown. We have lightweight Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. This is going to be a great fight. Via BetOnline, Dariush is minus 175 and Ferguson is plus 150. Matt, you know what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut for now. I want to hear what you have to say for this co-main.
I love Tony Ferguson. Straight up love Tony Ferguson. One of the best fighters at 155 pounds. But let's take a look at a few things. Coming off of 2 straight losses. First one to Charles Oliveira at UFC 256. And then he got fucked up by Justin Gaethje at UFC 249. That derailed the 12-fight winning streak. And then let's take a look at the stuff with Khabib. The knee injury coming out of Fox Sports. That long layoff. The effects of that. I'm not making light of it, but Tony Ferguson went through a legitimate mental health crisis a couple of years ago. And it really put his future at stake. And I love El Cucuy. I love watching him fight. He is a monster inside the octagon. But I don't know if he's the same person anymore. I don't know if he's that same fighter. And
he seems to be declining, honestly.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, we're having a conversation. You can cut me off. If I'm getting too annoying, tell me to shut the hell up.
Never.
And his last 2 fights, his last 2 wins were TKO stoppages in the corner against Anthony Pettis and a doctor's stoppage against Donald Cerrone. On paper, damn, that's impressive. But we just saw Donald Cerrone get stopped by a last-second opponent and Anthony Pettis, and this is no shade on the PFL.
Alex Murray.
Anthony Pettis lost in the PFL. That's a step down for a guy like that. And, I don't want to say Tony Ferguson is being boosted by people who are fans of him, but we got to take a look at Beneil Dariush. 6 straight fights. This is the biggest fight of his career. So there's a title fight waiting in the wings, maybe, or a fight against Gaethje or Poirier. Only 7 of his UFC fights have gone to a decision out of 19. And those are the only times, by the way, his fights have gone to the 3rd round. So over half of his fights inside the octagon have ended in the first 2 rounds. That's insane to me. He's got 5 first-round finishes. He's knocked out 5, submitted 8 and 7 decisions. I see it no other way. I think Beneil Dariush gets the win here. I don't know if it'll be an emphatic win, but he's going up against the game Tony Ferguson. But he's got a chin on him now. He doesn't have that chin anymore. He's chinny. That's a big concern. Yeah. I got to go with Dariush here. I got to go for the guy that everybody thinks is going to lose.
Honestly, I'm on the opposite side again. I actually at first I was very drawn with this fight because at first look, I was all over Beneil Dariush, but then I'm like thinking about it, there's going to be a crowd. Tony Ferguson thrives off of that.
It's at the Apex. It's not, there's no crowd.
It's in the Toyota Center in Texas.
Oh, son.
So they're going to have
lied
crowd.
To me.
No, it's at the Toyota Center, unless they changed it. I mean, the last thing, because I know Andrea Lee is from Texas, and she was hesitant to take the fight against Antonina Shevchenko, and yes, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's confirmed Toyota Center, so it's in Texas. So there will be fans. So he will thrive off of that. But it's not just about the fans. His conditioning is on point, and just look at his track record. Yeah, I said earlier he is on a decline, which, yeah, he is on a decline in his career. But I think, again, now I am drawn again in this. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. His last submission win was against Kevin Lee. He can fight on the ground. He can strike. Let's look at his striking stats. He averages 5.46 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 3.94. So he's a great striking defense. And he was on a 12-fight win streak before those 2 recent losses, So I think he can redeem himself in this. There's a possibility of it. But for me, I like the dog odds on Tony Ferguson. Where are his odds again? Via Bet Online, Tony Ferguson, where's your name? Plus 150. And on Monday, he was plus 144. So yeah, the money is coming in on Dariush, which I don't blame everyone. He is lethal. He is very lethal. And speaking of lethal, we'll get into our next fight. But yeah, I like the odds on Tony Ferguson. I just like the value on it too. But yeah, so we're split again. I guess we'll see next week, huh? But I would not be surprised if Beneil Dariush gets an early finish in this fight. I can see him winning by TKO in this. Even though Tony Ferguson has been knocked out once, I think if anyone can knock him out, it would probably be Beneil Dariush. He has that power behind his fist. So we got Dariush with Matt and Tony Ferguson with Lee, and I know a lot of people are going to be having some words to say about me back in Tony Ferguson, but everything's just leaning for Tony Ferguson for me. So again, if you guys do want to get on this fight via Bet Online, I was going to say Beneil Dariush, but it's Beneil Dariush, minus 175, Tony Ferguson plus 150. I really think I'm dyslexic. I'm just putting that out there for everyone to know. But let's move on to the main event, and this is going to be a beautiful main event. We have lightweights, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Via Bet Online, Oliveira is minus 130 and Michael Chandler is plus 110. Now, for everyone that does not know, the UFC lightweight championship title spot is vacant because, yes, Khabib retired with the title. So this will be a title bout between Oliveira and Chandler. And I will tell you right now, for the 5 rounds, it won't go the distance, okay? I like Michael Chandler in this one. He's a 3-time Bellator lightweight champion. He successfully defended the title 3 times. He has those power in his fist. Of his 22 wins, 17 were by finish, and 10 of those are by knockout. And he's a huge wrestler too. So the fact that Charles Oliveira has like the most elite submission skills in the not in the UFC, but at least in that division, Michael Chandler is also a Big 12 wrestler. He qualified for the Division I NCAA tournament for all 4 years. So for me, the power and everything falls behind Michael Chandler. And again, the dog odds are so nice. And you guys will probably hear this from me a lot with this card, but there's a lot of value on these dogs in this card. So for me, I'm backing Michael Chandler. So I want to hear who you have for the main event, Matt.
Most submission wins in UFC history. Most submission wins in the UFC featherweight division's history. Most performance of the night awards in UFC history. Tied for most finishes in UFC history. Highest finishes per win percentage in UFC history. Second most post-fight bonuses. He's knocked out 8, submitted 19, 3 decisions. He's knocked out 4 opponents. He's been knocked out 4 times, submitted 3 times, and 1 decision loss. That's Charles Oliveira's record heading into Saturday night.
Yep.
That is impressive. He got a decision win over Tony Ferguson at UFC 256. We talked about that earlier. His last loss was a TKO against Paul Felder in 2018. Wins over Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, and Nick Lentz in his most recent run. If you were to give that resume to anybody in mixed martial arts, you would automatically assume that they're a champion. But this is Charles Oliveira's first real title fight. The game is completely different. Under the bright lights, in an arena, surrounded by fans, 5 rounds, with a title on the line. It's a different atmosphere. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm going with Michael Chandler.
Chandler. I adore you. Yes. Well, I mean, Oliveira's been in the UFC for 11 years, and Michael Chandler came in with his UFC debut against Dan Hooker, and he won. And he was this year. Yeah, January of this year at UFC 257. And you know what? The fact that he was a 3-time Bellator lightweight champion, that stands out to me a lot. And the fact that he's not only known for his striking power, he can wrestle too. That's the thing. So I see this fight going 2 ways. I saw it either Oliveira wins inside the distance by submission or Chandler wins by TKO. So either way, I see this finishing inside the distance. But at the end, I'm siding with the power and the skill, and that has to be Michael Chandler. I'm not saying Oliveira does not have the power or skill. He 110% does, but again, the dog value on Michael Chandler, his track record outside of the UFC, just everything leans towards Michael Chandler, So that's my pick. That's my pick for the main event. Matt, is your pick for the main event Michael Chandler?
My pick for the main event is Michael Chandler. His record outside of the octagon, you take a look at his UFC debut where he completely dusted Dan Hooker at UFC 257. His last one was a knockout against Benson Henderson, which, may not be the most impressive thing in the world, but he's got 2 wins over Patricky Pitbull, wins against Brett Primus and Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez got revenge, but 3-time former Bellator lightweight champion. This, to me, would probably be the biggest Bellator lightweight fight in history in comparison. Just in terms of skill sets, not fading Bellator at all. There's some great 155ers there. We've seen some great competitors in Bellator, but this just hits different. It's really hard to bet against someone who's been to the dance before. Chandler, I believe, has fought inside Madison Square Garden, and that kind of energy is incomparable to anything in fighting. And going into the Toyota Center, the second major UFC event since fans getting started going back, and my opinions on that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's hard to bet against Chandler in this kind of atmosphere. It's the same thing you were talking about before when you have that level, like that Tony Ferguson energy. It's hard. It's hard to bet against that. So I'm going with Chandler here. He goes 23-5 and becomes one of the rare people to hold Bellator and UFC gold in their career.
Yep, I'm with you on that. And honestly, I was before the show, I was reading one of Michael Chandler's interviews, and he said straight up, "I'm knocking him out in the first round." So that gave me chills reading that. It was like a full-on paragraph explaining how he's going to approach this fight, and he sounds so confident that is also extremely appealing. Again, it's just his power. And Oliveira often opens himself up. If Chandler is able to find that small opening that Oliveira leaves open, there's the finish right there, in my eyes, And again, Oliveira's been knocked out or finished 4 times by TKO. So there's a high chance for it. Well, I don't know if it's high, but there's a chance for it. All right. So yes, Michael Chandler for me, Michael Chandler for Matt. If you want to see who Dave is backing, go give him a follow on Twitter at @dmanion_ and check out the rest of his content at sbrpigs.com/UFC. I thought I was talking cray. All right, so that's all we have for the main event. Again, the odds are Oliveira -130, Michael Chandler +110. Those dog odds are very nice. But let's get into our prelims, okay? Matt, is there a prelim on the card that you are looking out for?
Oh, you got to go with the most obvious answer. It's Jacare.
Yeah.
You got Ronaldo Souza fighting in the main event of the prelims.
Yep.
Come on. If you're not wanting to watch Jacare against anybody, and seeing him disrespected by being put in the prelims, he gonna hurt somebody.
He is gonna hurt someone. It's crazy. Hold on, let me read the odds for this fight. We have Ronaldo Souza -115 and Andre Muniz is -105. So that's
okay.
That's coming up. That's actually quite shocking. I was expecting something else in those odds. But hey, prelim that Matt's looking out for, Ronaldo Souza. But for me, Antonina Shevchenko. I love watching her fight. Via Bet Online, Shevchenko is -125 and Andrea Lee is +105. And the reason why this fight also stands out to me most, and I mentioned it earlier, and Andrea Lee was hesitant in accepting this fight. I just feel like that alone is a big no-no. Yeah. That worries me for Andrea Lee. You should not be hesitant for a fight. If someone says, do you want to fight this? You just say, yes, I'm going to take it. Like, I don't know.
But also,
that's just me.
Antonina Shevchenko is fairly protected, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. Like, her sister's one of the greatest fighters on the planet. But, you know, we've seen Antonina, she's 9-2 overall. I interviewed her a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago, a year and a half ago, at the Prudential Center. Talented fighter, very nice, but you don't see a lot of her. Andrea Lee, 11-5. The hesitance could be because you know it might be a situation where she's walking in a little unsure of what the scorecards are going to look like. It could be that. I'm not saying it is, but the hesitancy, there could be a lot of other stuff there that we don't know about. Could be because she's afraid for her health, or she doesn't feel ready yet. She's like. It could just be the mystique of the Shevchenko name that caused her, but also it could just be a tactic. It could just be her working everybody, acting like it, and trying to okie doke Shevchenko. Yeah,
honestly, that's a good point where it could be like a whole act. But I feel like either way, it's just Antonina is training right alongside Valentina. That's why I'm looking at these odds, and they make sense, these odds at -125. Like, for me, it makes sense, but I don't know. I like Antonina in this matchup. Again, I'm going to look more into it, and I will make a tweet about it, but again, about who I'm officially siding with. But as of right now, I like Antonina Shevchenko for numerous reasons. But is that the only prelim you're looking into, Matt?
I like Lee and Shevchenko too. Like, that's a great fight. Like, this is a very deep card. We have Magny fighting in the prelims. It's pretty nuts. Like, I can put some interesting stuff together here. This is a great full-on card. Yeah. But those two fights to me are the ones that stand out immediately.
Definitely, immediately. The second you look at the card, those are the names that stand out. But okay, so prelims to look out for: Ronaldo Souza and Antonina Shevchenko. But let's move on to our lock on the card. All right, Matt, I hope you have your lock ready. Honestly, I'm drawn between two fights to have my lock on the card. So Matt, I'll begin with you for your lock on the card.
I'm gonna make it easy, everybody. Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's my lock on the card. Yep. Just because I'm excited next week to see if I'm wrong. For me, it's a matter of, this is a high-profile fight. I'm going to make a high-profile prediction. This is the future of 155 pounds on Saturday night, and the UFC is hoping and praying it's Michael Chandler. Yes. I don't know if they want – it's nothing against Charles Oliveira, but I don't know if they want Charles Oliveira in that top spot. He got there. He earned it. But this is, the way this matchmaking is, the way this is built up. This also could be a Buster Douglas situation. It could be that. It could be any number of things. We might be surprised coming out of this. But the odds are forever in Michael Chandler's favor, so I have to go with him as my lock.
No, those dog odds are beautiful. And he's actually one of the people that I'm debating for my lock on the card, because I'm telling you right off the bat, I loved Viviane Araujo. I really do. And I like her odds too. The dog odds on both Araujo and Michael Chandler are beautiful. So honestly, I would have to agree and say Michael Chandler is my lock, but also Viviane Araujo is my lock. So those are my two locks on the card. Are there any other fights that you were hesitant about, or are you just set? Honestly, it sounds like you were set on Michael Chandler. What am I even asking? Right off the bat. But any second guesses before making Michael Chandler your lock?
You waver on a lot of that, but that's the only real prediction on this card that I feel outside of maybe Araujo. Like, those are the only ones where I have like a lot of positive momentum on. Like, to me, like those are those are more certain than anything else on this card for me.
Yeah, exactly. But let's get into the chat questions. We'll finish up the show in the chat. And I'm just looking in. Big shout out to Big Wave Dave. Yes, shout out to you. Justin Viega said, Lee and Matt, help us out today with some underdogs, please. This weekend, underdogs and beers just need to know what prop topping you like to throw on them. That was a mouthful. But with the underdogs, I think I made it clear with the underdogs. We have Michael Chandler. That's a dog that I like. Tony Ferguson, that's another dog I like. Matt Schnell's a favorite. And then Viviane Araujo, that's another dog. And then Burgos, that's a favorite. Those are the people that I am keeping an eye on. Those would be my picks. But again, I mentioned Burgos and Barboza. I'm most likely staying away from that fight just because it's very close in my eyes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, Matt, what would be your dog plays on this card, Matt?
Well, if we run through some of them again, yeah, like that Araujo fight for me, and Shevchenko's obviously the favorite. I wouldn't be surprised if, Angela Lee as an underdog is not a bad move. We've got Jacare, I think, the way you read those odds, he was an underdog. If that's an underdog play, then take.
No, he's not the underdog. Andre Muniz is the underdog.
Oh, okay. I misheard you.
No, but yeah. Souza, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Souza is -115 and Muniz is -105.
And I like Dariush. Dariush as an underdog is a great play. I think that's a solid play here. Thought Ferguson was the favorite.
Beneil Dariush is the favorite, so Tony Ferguson is the dog in this one.
Well, you know what? Honestly, either way, Ferguson as an underdog. If you're a Lee Martin fan, that's the play to make. I hear you say the things, and then I'm like focused on what we're talking about in the moment. And I'm terrible with numbers. I'm a New York
there are dog odds on Beneil Dariush in the MMA props, so check those out. And I will pull them up right now and see what there is. If you like Beneil Dariush by points +140, he's favored by points, honestly, at +140. That's the highest right now. But Tony Ferguson by points is +375, so that's even more value right there for you guys. Yeah. So again, if you want a lot of underdog plays, check out the MMA props. They're there for you. All right. Yeah. But let's keep on going in the chat. Big Wave Dave again. Burgos, but at dog price. Barboza doesn't look bad. No, Barboza does not look bad. But again, I am staying away from this fight, and I'm pretty sure Matt is too. But Big Wave Dave.
I'm like 9 blocks away from that fight.
Yeah, exactly. But Big Wave Dave said fade Chookagian. I am with you on that one for 100% since Araujo is my lock. Let's see. Justin Viega said, I do DraftKings 6-fighter parlay with a budget. I'm forced to pick 2 super underdogs, but depends sometimes. Sometimes they give us good underdogs to choose, like Michael and Ferguson on this card. Okay. Yes, Michael and Ferguson. Again, I like Michael Chandler and Ferguson on this card, but let me know. Honestly, Justin, let me know what your parlay is. The 6-fighter parlay, let me know in the chat, and we'll look at that. But Big Wave Dave says Schnell. Yep. I personally think he's good all the way until -190. And yes, I agree with you. And currently he's at -160 if I was remembering correctly. Yep, -160. So yeah, and it's going up. So I would grab that if you guys like Matt Schnell.
Yeah.
Let's see, Justin Viegas. He's not an underdog. And this is with.
Yeah, I misheard. So there.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people. I see a lot of people that liked Dariush, but now they are tempted with the Ferguson dog price. It's extremely tempting, and that adds to why I like Ferguson at plus money. And again, he's going to be at the Toyota Center in Houston. It's going to be most likely be a huge crowd, so he's going to be hyped up, honestly. So the more and more I talk about that fight, the more I'm excited to see that fight. But Justin Vega's at it again. Chandler, a lock on the night? Yes, that was our lock on the card. So I would say yes. Yes. Indeed. But yes, let us know if you guys have any questions. I see a lot of people just throwing out their picks, which is good. Ferguson by submission if he wins. That's an interesting one, and I will look at that prop. Tony Ferguson by submission is plus 750. So if you guys really think he can get a submission win, a crap ton of value on that. But Big Wave
Dave, an ungodly amount of money.
Right? That's a lot. So Big Whip Dave says Matt tripping on some shrooms.
Too early in the day.
Matt's chilling. But the last comment I'll read, Formidable Cypher says Ferguson needs to start attacking more instead of waiting to counter. Then he might control the fight like he used to. Otherwise, I don't see it play by a step. That is a great point. And again, I've noticed with a lot of fighters that like to wait to counter and allow their opponents to throw first, they always leave themselves open for disaster because they're going to be taking all these hits to counter. So again, you're opening yourself up. Yes, I agree. Tony Ferguson needs to be more aggressive. And yes, I agree with Big Wave Dave. No way Ferguson gets a submission because I don't see him winning by submission. But that's it, all we have in the chat. If you guys have any questions, definitely hit us up on Twitter. You can give Matt a follow on Twitter at MRyan Consulting. You can follow me on Twitter at Lee Martin Sports. Like always, follow Dave on Twitter at DMannion_. And then while you're at it, give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. And to find more breakdowns and picks to help you make your best bets for this upcoming fight night, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. Now, Matt, I don't know if you have any closing remarks. Do you?
Yes. Great to be back. Nice new graphic. Shout out to the team, by the way. Follow me on Twitter at MRyan Consulting. Happy Gotcha Day to Olive, who's been bothering me this entire broadcast. Fun talking with you as always, Lee. And a shout out to the chat. Big Wave Dave saying I'm microdosing. No. I'm too much of a coward for that. But check me out this Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, right at 9:45 Eastern, right before the start of UFC 262. I will be live on the Combat Culture YouTube channel. Subscribe to them right now and join along with the fun. Have a couple of drinks. We have a good time. We'll shout you out in the chat. We always have a lot of fun on the Combat Culture channel, and we want you to be a part of it. As always, I will forever be yelling about sports, and I want to do it along with you lovely people. So come hang out this Saturday night. If you're not buying the pay-per-view, come on out and listen to me yell about the card.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you, Matt, like always, for joining us. Thank you, everyone that tuned in on the chats and joined us today. I wish you all the best of luck this weekend, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.